Hilchos Avodas Hakippurim, Perek Chamishi, the laws of the temple service of Yom Kippur, chapter 5, the final chapter. Today we conclude this set of laws. And the whole thing today, or I should say most of the thing today, is going to be discussing the idea that order is paramount in the service. You have to do it in the correct order. And what happens if you go out of order? And then at the end of the chapter, we're going to get a whole series of kind of mini laws about problems with the goat that sent away the Soyer HaMishtaleach, and some issues with the Ketores at the end, exactly how the high priest had to get ready to offer the incense in the Holy of Holies, and how if that would go off track, what would be the law over there. So the Rambam tells us, Halacha Aleph, Kol Avodos she'oved bebigdei lavan bifnim baheichal. All services of the day, which the Kohen Gadol is doing, or supposed to do in his white clothing. That means the special Yom Kippur services inside the temple structure. He must perform them in the order which we explained. And if you prefaced one to the other, if it was supposed to be later, you have done nothing. And notice that Rambam only says the ones inside, because there are a whole bunch of services you do outside, also with the white clothing. The raffle and the confessions and all those things. Those, the order is not so important. Only the ones which the Kohen Gadol is doing inside, in the white clothing, that's the ones where the order is integral. Now, there's also some things that even though they're done outside, they're related, or they're done for the necessity of preparation for services that are done inside. And therefore over there, the order also is very much important. First example, Halacha Beis, if the Kohen Gadol scooped up the incense before slaughtering the bull. Remember yesterday that Rambam told us that after making the confessions on his personal bull, he would slaughter the bull, then he would pause. He wouldn't take the blood into the Holy of Holies right away. He would hand off the blood to another Kohen who would mix it till he was ready. Then, while it's being mixed, he goes in and offers the whole Ketores. So if you think about it, I mean, technically speaking, you don't need to slaughter the bull before, because anyways, you're only going to get to the blood afterwards. So the Kohen Gadol might think to himself one time, you know what, I'll just scoop up the Ketores and leave the bull alive for another couple of minutes, and then slaughter it later. Says the Rambam, even though these are services that were done outside, loy asa klum, because he switched the order, it's considered worthless. Even though, as we explained yesterday, where does the Kohen Gadol scoop up the Ketores? In the temple courtyard. It is for the needs of the inside, for the service that's going to be performed inside, and therefore it's considered like you did the service inside, out of order, problematic. So too, if you slaughtered the bull, the goat, before the applications of the blood of the bull. Remember yesterday that Rambam said, after you finish the Ketores, the Kohen Gadol would go back to the Kohen who was mixing the blood, take the blood of the bull, sprinkle it in the Holy of Holies, and only then go back out and slaughter the goat. So what if you wanted to save time? He's like, you know what? I'm going in anyways. So I'll slaughter the bull and the goat. We'll take care of both animals, and then I'll go in and I'll sprinkle the blood in the Kodesh HaKodashim. No, if you slaughtered the goat before applying the blood of the bull, le'asa klum, you've done nothing. Afal pisha hashchita ba'azara, even though the slaughtering of the goat takes place in the temple courtyard. And so where did you go out of order? Outside, not inside. Since the blood of the goat is going to go inside, so it's considered like a service related to the inside. Halacha Gimel, Ayil v'soyed hamusafin, the ram and the goat of the musaf, typically, as we saw yesterday, they're delayed. In the morning, right after the daily sacrifice and the daily services of the Ketores and the menorah, the Kohen Gadol would offer half of the musaf, the bull and the 7 sheep. Later on in the afternoon, he would offer the goat and the ram. What if he moved it back? You take the ram and the goat of the musaf, she'asa oisan kaidem avodas hayom. He performs them before the service of the day, also einon klum. They're also worth nothing. Even though, again, this is outside stuff, but because you did it before all the inside stuff, so now in a way the inside stuff are done out of order. All the inside stuff were done after these animals were offered. So Therefore, it's a problem. The commentaries debate that Rambam only says the ram of the Musaf. What about the ram of the high priest himself? There was a personal ram that he also brought, that also was brought later in the day. But it sounds like if he brought that one earlier, it wouldn't be a problem. And the commentaries have a source for it in the verse. Anyway, it's a whole debate. But the Rambam over here for sure only mentions the Musaf ram. Halacha dalid hikdim dam hasoir l'dam hapar b'kodesh hakadashim. If you prefaced sprinkling the blood of the goat to the blood of the bull in the Holy of Holies, and now some texts have additional words here. Koidem sheyigmar avodasai. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess you have that text. Other texts don't have it. Before you finished its service. What does this mean? In the Holy of Holies, the Kohen Gadol would sprinkle first the blood of the bull, then he would go out, slaughter the goat, bring the blood of the goat back into the Holy of Holies. So what if he sprinkled the blood of the goat before the blood of the bull? Which, by the way, necessarily means that he slaughtered the goat before sprinkling the blood of the bull, which we just said in Halacha Beis is anyways disqualified. So how do we even have a case of prefacing the blood of the goat to the blood of the bull? So some want to say that that's the extra words here, Kaidem Sheyigmar Avodas. That the idea is that he didn't slaughter the goat completely before starting the sprinkling of the bull. He began the sprinkling of the bull in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Then he stopped in the middle, left, slaughtered the goat, and came in and applied the blood of the goat before finishing the blood of the bull. That's one explanation. Another explanation is that you're right. In this scenario, because he slaughtered the goat first, it would disqualify the service. But the point that Rambam is making over here is that you can fix it. You can fix the problem that you made. And how do you fix the problem that you made? Yazem midam hapar kimitzvasei. Take the bull's blood, sprinkle it as its mitzvah is. The achar kach yavi soyer acher, and then bring another replacement goat. The yishchatay and slaughter it. The yazem midamei b'kedesh hakadashim kimitzvasei. Sprinkle from its blood in the Holy of Holies as the mitzvah is. The yipasil harishan, and just the first one becomes disqualified. But from now here on out, you've kind of course corrected, and you can continue. Hikdim dam hasoyer. L'dam hapar b'matones shebaheichal ala pareches. What if it wasn't the applications in the Holy of Holies? We're talking now about the applications outside the Holy of Holies. So in the Holy of Holies, you sprinkled properly first the blood of the bull, then the blood of the goat. But then when you came outside, instead of sprinkling the blood of the bull first on the pareches, and then the goat, you sprinkled the goat's blood, then the bull. Yachazer v'yazem midam hasoyer pam shniya la'achar dam hapar. Easy fix. Just take the goat's blood and sprinkle it again after you sprinkle the bull's blood. Halacha hey nishbach hadam ad shalei gomer matanois shebekodesh hakadashim. If the blood spilled before you had a chance to complete the applications in the Holy of Holies. And now I'm going to explain the next couple of halachas as referring to the blood of the goat only. There are those that interpret it also as referring to the blood of the bull, but based on halacha number 8, it's pretty clear. At first we're talking about the blood of the goat. So the blood of the goat spilled out before you finished applying it in the Holy of Holies. So let's follow the scenario. You slaughtered the bull, you brought the bull's blood in, you sprinkled it properly. Then you slaughter the goat, you bring the goat's blood in, and before you have a chance to finish what you have to do in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it spills. Yavi dam acher, simply bring another blood from the goat, in other words, which means slaughter a new goat. The yachazer v'yazeh batchila b'kodesh hakadashim, and just go back and slaughter as if you were starting again in the Holy of Holies. What if it's the next stage? Gamar matanis shebekodesh hakadashim v'hischil b'matanis shebaheichal. You finished everything in the Holy of Holies. Very good. You began the applications in the heichal, and again we're talking about the goat. So in other words, you did everything right. Bull, then goat in the Holy of Holies. Bull in the pareches, and then you picked up the goat's blood to sprinkle on the pareches, and then in the middle of that, the nishbach hadam ad shalei gamar. The blood spills before you have a chance to finish. Yavi dam acher, simply bring other blood. The yaschil mitchilas hazayas shebaheichal, and begin again from the sprinkling in the heichal. What if it's the next step? Gamar matanis shebaheichal. You concluded sprinkling all the applications in the pareches. Then what do you do next? You have to apply it to the small mizbeach, to the golden mizbeach. But over here, you're actually supposed to mix the bloods. After you finish sprinkling on the pareches, the bull's blood and the goat's blood were now mixed together. So you began these applications, v'hischil litein al mizbach hazahav, and you began to place them on the golden mizbeach, v'nishbach hadam ad shalei gamar, and the blood was spilled before you had a chance to finish. So here, yavi dam acher, you bring other blood, umaschil mitchilas matnes hamizbeach, and you have to begin from the beginning of the applications to the mizbeach, which the commentators explain over here means you really have to slaughter a new bull and a new goat, because the blood over here has to be mixed from both bull and goat's blood. So you must achieve that mixture by first slaughtering another bull and another goat. And the reasoning for all these things is shekulan kapara bifnei atzmanein, because each stage of sprinkling the blood is an atonement for itself. You're in the Kodesh HaKodashim, that's one set. You're outside, it's another set. On the Mizbeach, it's a third set. Gamar matnes hamizbeach v'achar kach nishbach hadam. If you finished all the applications on the small Mizbeach, and now the blood spills, all that you really have left to do is to pour the rest of the blood onto the base on the Mizbeach outside. Says the Rambam, that's not part of the service. At this point, no need to bring new blood. The pouring of the remainder of the blood on the outer Mizbeach is not essential. And now you see that until now we were referring to the blood of the goat. Because now the Rambam says, if it wasn't the blood of the goat, if it was the blood of the bull that spilled before the conclusion of the applications, you have to bring another bull, and you must scoop up the ketores again a second time before slaughtering the bull. Now, this word kaidem is very puzzling, because you're actually supposed to scoop up the ketores after the slaughtering of the bull. Kesef Mishnah says you have to delete this word, change it from kaidem to achar. It should say achar. The point that Rambam is making is that when you slaughter a new bull, you must then also do the ketores again. Because the way it typically worked was you slaughtered the bull, you did the ketores, then you went back to the blood of the bull and you sprinkled it. If I'm telling you now you have to slaughter the bull again, that means you have to go back, treat it as if you didn't do the bull at all. Slaughter the bull and do the whole ketores again. V'yaktir ketores. Offer the ketores. And then you can bring the blood of the bull and sprinkle from it. Based on this and the other halacha, where it was talking about when you spilled the blood before applying it to the small mizbeach, and the Rambam was saying you have to bring new blood and start again, since at that point the blood is mixed, it would mean you have to slaughter a new bull and a new goat. Some commentaries say that it also means, in that case, you must offer the ketores again. Others say not, but it's just another matter of debate among the commentaries. Halacha tes, ve'ein metame begadim, ve'ein nisraf beveis hadeshen. In this case, where you have a second bull that you have to slaughter because of these problems, so typically the bull of Yom Kippur, first of all, had to be burnt outside, special burning procedure. Second of all, the Kohen who was involved in the burning became impure, ritually impure. So in this case, you have two bulls. Which bull do you have to burn? Which bull gets that law of impurity? Says the Rambam, in this case, only the latter bull, which concluded the atonement, that's the one that's going to have to be burnt, and that's the one that's going to communicate ritual impurity. What if the blood of the bull and the goat mixed too early? You're only supposed to mix the blood before you apply it to the small mizbeach. But what if at this point, while he's still sprinkling on the parechas, or even earlier at this point, when he's still sprinkling in the Holy of Holies, what if the two bloods got mixed? Here you basically treat the blood as though it's divided, and you just do the ceremony twice. You sprinkle it once upward, 7 times downward, having in mind the blood of the bull. And you do it again, once up, 7 down, having in mind the goat. Let's say they got mixed at the last application. So you had the bull's blood, all good, upwards, once, 6 times down. Before you have a chance to do the 7th time down, the goat's blood falls into it. So same thing. Just conclude the last one from this mixed blood, but have in mind the bull. And do it again, 8 times, once up, 7 down, for the goat, having in mind the goat. By the way, I should say that maybe I misspoke when I said it's talking about in the Holy of Holies, because it's pretty much impossible to have them mixed while the blood of the bull was being sprinkled in the Holy of Holies, because you didn't slaughter the goat yet. So it would have to be talking about a case where you're outside after you already have the bull's blood and the goat's blood in front of you, that's when they could have gotten mixed. Halacha Yud Aleph nischalfu hakaisis. Interesting. The bloods didn't mix. The cups got mixed up in your head. You forgot which is the bull's blood, which is the goat's blood. So the bloods themselves, in one cup there's only bull's blood, and the other cup there's only goat's blood. But you don't know which cup is which. So you have to assume both orders. Take the first one and sprinkle it once upwards, 7 downwards. And you're supposed to have in mind, as the commentaries say, you're supposed to have in mind for the bull, just in case that's the bull. Take the second cup. You do once upwards, 7 downwards. And at that point, you have to have in mind both the bull and the goat. Hopefully it's the goat, which now came after the bull. But maybe if it's the bull, you go back to the first one and apply that one once up, 7 down. Have in mind now for the goat, just in case it's the goat. So now either way, you're safe. If the first cup was the bull and the second cup was the goat, well, you did first and then second. If the second one was the bull and the first one was the goat, then you did second first. So either way, you hit the right order. Halacha Yud Beis, kibel dam hapar b'shtei kaisos, v'kibel dam hasar b'shtei kaisos. You didn't follow protocol. Instead of receiving the blood from the bull in 1 cup and the goat in 1 cup, you did it each one in 2 cups. So now you have 4 cups of blood. 2 of them are bull's blood, 2 of them are goat's blood. V'nisarvu miktas hakaisos. And 2 of the cups got mixed. V'lo'neida kais dam hapar mikais dam hasar. And you don't know which is the bull's blood, which is the goat's blood. But the other 2 are still safe. You know this is bull, this is goat. Then you have these 2 that got mixed up. So what do? You only focus on the 2 cups that didn't get mixed up, and you go in order with those cups. And the leftover blood in those cups which you used, those are the ones that you pour on the base of the mizbeach as the mitzvah is. Whereas the cups that got mixed up, you just throw them out into the channel that ran through the temple courtyard, and that's it. Halacha Yud Gimel Parye Hakippurim, the special bull of Yom Kippur that belonged to the Kohen Gadol. Afal Pisha Kohen Gadol Kaina Mishaloi, even though the high priest had to buy it from his own funds. Shenemar Par Hachatos Asher Loi. It says it had to be his sin offering bull. Nevertheless, Hamakim Hifker Mamoinei Boy L'chal Echav HaKohanim. Hashem made his property hefker, ownerless, with regard to all his brothers, the Kohanim. Because if you remember, part of the bull's confession, the first time the confession was for the high priest and his family. Second time the confession was for him, his family, and all the Kohanim. That means that all the Kohanim have to have a part in the bull. If the Kohanim didn't have a partnership in it, they couldn't achieve atonement through them. So therefore, Hashem considers it to be ownerless, and all the Kohanim own it. And this leads to a very interesting law. Therefore, if the high priest dies before you slaughter the bull. So usually, if you remember, last set of laws, what happens if a chatas, a sin offering, has a private owner and the owner dies? The animal has to be left to die. It's a very tragic end to its life. But here, even though it's also a personal sin offering and should belong to the Kohen Gadol, but even if he dies, since Hashem made it ownerless to the community, the high priest that takes over doesn't have to bring another bull. And he can simply slaughter the first guy's bull. This is not called a sin offering whose owner dies, in which case it has to die. Because a communal or a public sin offering never dies. Even more, he says, what if the high priest had a chance to slaughter the bull? And he dies before he has a chance to atone with its blood. The replacement deputy Kohen Gadol steps in and uses the same blood to atone for it. Again, because he has a portion. The 2 goats that are used in the raffle of Yom Kippur, mitzvasan, the ideal mitzvah is, they should be equal in all respects. B'mare, in their look, their color, essentially. Uvekoima, their height. Uvedamim, their price. Ulekichasan ka'achas, and they should even be bought together. Now, although that's the ideal mitzvah, afal pisha einon shavin ksherin, even though they're not, still kosher. If all you have is 2, white goat and a black goat, fine, get them. If you bought them one now and one later, one tomorrow, it's also kosher. The idea being that it's a raffle. So a raffle, you want to keep it as even as possible. With the two options, the idea of a raffle, at least mystically, is you're submitting your will to Hashem's will. I don't know what to choose, Hashem should choose. But that idea of equal choice only applies if the two goats are exactly the same. Now obviously, even if they're not, you still have the idea of a raffle, but therefore the ideal mitzvah is to have them equal. Halacha tezvav, meis echad mehen. What if one of the goats drops dead? What do? You're right here for the raffle, and one of them dies. So it depends if it's before or after the raffle. Im ad shaloi higril meis. If it was before the raffle that one of them died, yikach zug lasheni. Simply replace it. The goat that's dead, take it away, bring another live goat, start again, do the raffle. But what if they were already made the raffle? That means you already know which one is for God and which one is for the Azazel mountain. So what you have to do is, you have to go like this. Since each one is already designated, you can't just replace it. This was part of the raffle. So Yavi Shnayim, you have to do the raffle again. You bring two more goats. And do the raffle from the beginning. But you don't just use those last two. Watch what happens. Then you go back to the first set and you see which one died. If it was the God's sin offering that died, he should say now with the new raffle, the one who had the Hashem's goat come on it should last instead of the first one, and you bring it back to the partner from the first lot. If the one that was the Azazel one, that was the one that died, you should say, the one that goes to the mountain should last instead of it. And you bring it back to the first pair. So you're going to end up bringing the live one from the first pair and its partner after you do the raffle from the second pair. What do you do with the second one from the second pair? The second one of the ones that was in the raffle the second time, it's like what we call a disqualified sacrifice. Let it graze till it gets a natural blemish. Sell it and have its money go to voluntary offerings. Because we cannot just kill it. It's a public sin offering. It cannot die. It must be left to graze. Another law where this could interplay with chatas. By the sin offerings we learned that if a sin offering gets lost, and then you use another one, and then you find the first one, it has to die. But over here says the Rambam, if the bull or the goat of Yom Kippur got lost, and they put aside new ones and they offered them, and then the first ones were found, so we don't kill them. They're public communal sacrifices. You let them graze till they get a mum, and they're sold, and the money goes to voluntary donations. And so too, if you find the first ones before the second ones are offered, bring the first ones. And the second ones that were put aside should graze till they get a natural blemish, and their money goes to donations, voluntary offerings. Again, the underlying principle being, a communal sacrifice, that sin offering, never dies. If you have a blemish on the goat that's being sent away, it disqualifies it. Even if it's a passing mum. Same way for a sacrifice on the altar. A mum disqualifies, even though this guy is being pushed off the mountain, but it's considered like a carbon. And it has to be pure of blemishes. Also, if it became disqualified by time, nifsal, it's disqualified. How does an animal become disqualified by time? Very interesting example. Says the Rambam, if the mother of this goat was slaughtered to help a sick person on Yom Kippur, now you have a problem. You cannot slaughter a mother and its son on the same day. So by slaughtering the mom for the sick person, now you've lost the chance to slaughter this goat. Now you're not really slaughtering it, you're pushing it off a mountain, but still, pushing it off the mountain is the equivalent of shchita for it. So if that becomes mechusar zman, and therefore it's disqualified. Yudches haya treifa pasul. If it was treif, if it has a mortal wound, it's disqualified. Shenemar, because it says ya'amad chai. It has to be stood up alive, not dying. And the Mishnah Lamelech writes that this is only if the treifa was discovered after the raffle. Before the raffle, there's no need to learn it from a verse. It's obvious. Before the raffle, any one of the goats could end up being a sin offering, an actual sin offering. So of course, it can't be treif. The chidush is that even after it was put aside as the Azazel goat, if it becomes treif, because it says Yomad Chai, so it's disqualified. Yutes Chala Hasoyer Ve'enyo Chala Halech. If the goat becomes sick and now it cannot walk anymore, got a fever. Markiva Yal Kseifa Vafilu B'Shabbos. You must take it over your shoulder, even on Shabbos, bring it to the place. Chaf. What if Chala HaMeshaleach? What if the guy becomes sick? Because there was a guy who was chosen the day before. It says in the verse, Biyad Ish Iti Hamidbara. It was sent in the hands of a man designated the day before. And now he gets sick. It happens. People don't fast well. He's fasting all day. He's sick. What do you do? Send it with someone else. That's fine. Nitma HaMeshaleach. If he became impure, he should go in and take it and go out. Shanemar, because it says, Biyad Ish Iti Hamidbara, in the hands of the person designated. It should go to the desert. Biyad Zeh Shehuchan Afilu Nitma. In the hands of the one who was prepared, even if he's impure. If he said he can't go, so bring somebody else. But if it's just impure, spiritual problem, doesn't matter. He can go. Chav Beis. It's pretty hard to happen, but let's just say he pushes the goat off the cliff and he sees it's alive. It didn't die. It wasn't such a jagged cliff or whatever. He has to follow him down and kill it. He needs to kill it, find some way to kill it. Either way, if it dies or it's killed, the limbs of the goat are permitted to have benefit from it. It's not considered like, sacrificial and holy forever. Once it's pushed off, it's considered mundane, and you can do whatever you need with it. If part of the roof of the temple structure caved, and now it's not fully covered on Yom Kippur, the high priest could not sprinkle the blood. Shenemar, because it says, be'oyel mayit. Now, this is somewhat of a debate which verse it's referring to. Some say it's this verse, Ba'il Mayid. Others say it's this verse, actually, the words here, Ba'il Mayid. Neither of these are talking about Yom Kippur. These are both talking about what's called Chatas Hanasa Bifnim, a sin offering whose blood is performed inside the temple structure. But on Yom Kippur, it happens to be that the blood that we sprinkle inside is the same thing. It's a sin offering being performed inside, so you learn it from these verses. Point is, it says he has to sprinkle the blood in the tent of meeting. If there's no roof, it's not a tent. So therefore, the sprinkling is out. Chav Dalid Mizbeach Shalei Nischanich Baktoires. If the small Mizbeach, right after the all the sprinklings in the Holy of Holies and on the Pareiches, where is it? No. He has to sprinkle over here on the small Mizbeach. What if it happens to be that this small Mizbeach, it's the first day in use? There was never Ketores brought on it yet. Lo Yazalav, he cannot sprinkle the blood. Shenemar Mizbach Ketores Hasamim, because in the verses again discussing the Chatas and Asa Bifnim, it says you have to put it on the corners of the Mizbeach of the incense. That means it had to have some of the incense already offered on it at least once. Chavhei Chasar Minak Ketores or Chiser Minak Ketores. Echad Misamaneha Oimale Oshan. If the Kohen Gadol omitted from the Ketores one of the usual ingredients, or that special ingredient that got the smoke to go all the way up, straight in a line, Chayav Misa Aleha, the Kohen Gadol is liable to the death penalty, spiritual death penalty. Shenemar, because it says, V'lo Yamus ki be'anon eiro ala kapeiros. If you think about a punctuation, the comma is really after V'lo Yamus, but we learn from this way as well. He shouldn't die because I'm seen in a cloud, which means if there's no cloud, then he will die. Now, in the beginning of this book, where the Rambam discusses regular ketores, he also says that there's death penalty for missing one of the ingredients, but not for the ma'ale ashan, not for the smoke riser. And so there's a big debate if it only applies on Yom Kippur or not. The Rabbi has an interesting suggestion. Why? Because on Yom Kippur, there's a requirement that the house should, the Holy of Holies should fill with smoke, so the Kohen Gadol shouldn't see the Shechina as it comes down into the Kodesh HaKodashim. So if you don't have Ma'ale Ashan, if you don't have the smoke going up straight, so the smoke will naturally go to the sides, and the Aron Kodesh won't be blocked, and he might see the Shechina. So you have to have the Mala Ashan to go straight up, so it darkens the area in front of him, and he won't see it. That's one reason. The point is that on Yom Kippur, it was a unique law that you had to have the smoke. You're also liable to the death penalty if he goes into the Holy of Holies for no mitzvah purpose. Therefore, if the high priest accidentally walks into the Holy of Holies, not realizing that it's forbidden to go in just stamazai, but he's purposeful, he's intentional with bringing the ketores, or he came in with 2 sets of incense, complete and incomplete, chayav misa, he's liable to death penalty in both of these cases because there's one problem, either the ketores or the coming in. If he offers at least an olive-sized portion of the incense that's supposed to go all the way inside to the Holy of Holies, he offers it on the regular mizbeach inside the heichal, chayav misa is liable to the death penalty. Chav Zayin says the Rambam, chafinas hakteras avoda. The scooping up of the incense before going into the Holy of Holies is called a service. V'hamachshava peisales ba, and having an improper thought will disqualify it. V'chein chasiyas hagechalim lakteras. Also, the scooping up of the coals on the mizbeach is also disqualified with improper thought. Shemachshirei karban kekarban, because preparations for a sacrifice are like a sacrifice. In the last halacha, chav ches, ideally the scooping had to be done like this. Regular scooping is where it's first with the palms. The palms make first contact with the ketores, and you form a cup, and you get all the ketores inside. That's usually how chafina should be done. What if, says the Rambam, chafan berashayetz be'osav? What if he did one of these 3 scenarios? He scooped up with his fingertips, meaning this guy. He goes downwards. Instead of upwards, he kind of grabs it out like this.
No, you can do this.
He could, but he began this way.
Okay.
That's the point. He began in a problematic way, he ended in a good way. Or he goes in from the side. From the side, Rashi and the Talmud explains it's more like this scenario. Instead of putting in his palms first, he aligned his hands straight, put them down onto the incense, and then went like a flat board. He didn't scoop. He went like a flat board, and now it ends up with a little mound of ketores in his hands. But it wasn't scooped up. Or he goes from below to above. Again, Rashi explains this as meaning this. He aligns his hands together and goes this way. Instead of from side to side downwards, he does the scooping motion, but it's going with the fingertips first like this, instead of like this. I don't know how to describe it in words, but just that's the point. Or you scooped up with both hands individually and then brought them both together. Or after concluding the scooping, some of the ketores fell out and you picked it up. Or somebody else scooped it up and poured it into your hands. Or the Kohen Gadol did the scooping properly, he dies, and the second guy who replaces him uses the same incense. Kol elu safek v'lo yaktir. All these cases are a doubt, and he should not offer them. Be'im hiktir, but if he did, hurtza, it has been accepted by Hashem. Brich Rachamana Desaya, and blessed is Hashem who grants us assistance. Mazel Tov for concluding the laws of the service of Yom Kippur.